Okay, welcome. Today I want to talk a little bit about emotional flashbacks and how when we are triggered, when we are going through struggles, then often we will have an emotional flashback or an emotional trigger back to our childhood trauma, our childhood challenge. Okay. Yeah, so this is something which has been present for me in my work, but also in my life over the decades that I've been kind of looking at trauma and exploring my own inner world. And basically the idea is that when we are triggered by something, so as ex-boarders, we are often very structured, controlling. We want everything to be a certain way. When something new comes in, some change, maybe it might be the end of summer, it might be a new job, it might be a baby being born or whatever, this can often trigger us. And Pete Walker, in his book Complex PTSD, he calls this emotional flashback. Now, when I was in email correspondence with Pete, he said, as I've shared before about complex PTSD, he said boarding school syndrome, he says, he sees that as complex PTSD. And one of the key symptoms of a complex PTSD is these emotional flashbacks. I found when I first read this, I didn't quite get the terminology. So it doesn't mean that you remember your time at school or you remember your childhood trauma. What this means is you feel the same emotion that you felt as a child. I've noticed with ex-boarders, we have this low-level anxiety, which is what we felt as children, often at school or at home. So these flashbacks can be quite unpleasant. It might be we just go into fear. So if I give a couple of examples, when I was in my 20s living in a Buddhist monastery, there were some kids playing around outside and quite naughty, but just being kids. But I flashed back. I went back to boarding school and I went into a real rage and really frightened. And I didn't understand this terminology then, but I really spiraled into a dark space and I self-harmed and did some horrible things. And other examples of this is when I went to work in the corporate world, post-monastery, early 30s, working for a big Fortune 500 company. And I was working in a French department, so I was speaking French, and it was really busy. It was summer, and I just went into a flashback, real fear. I now see that what happened is I flashed back, and I hear this a lot with clients, especially those who've been to boarding school, is they will flash back. Maybe it's a child gets to a certain age, or a new job, or health problems. We flash back into that. And first thing, Pete Walker, and I'll put into the description his 13 ways of dealing with a flashback. I've found that really useful. You just read it out. And one of them is like to see that I'm not a child anymore. It is me flashing back. Often in the work I do with people, I just get them to step back from that part of them that is hurting. Because essentially he's very young. She's very young. And if we can step back and go, you're struggling. And if we can breathe, just create that distance, that helps to calm the nervous system down. What I find often happens with a flashback is we almost become that young self, and she takes over. And we can often create quite a lot of chaos in our life. We might leave our relationship, we might get, drink, drugs, these are the things I used to do. As if we can step back, just calm our nervous system down, it's okay, this is just a flashback, this is normal, this will pass. This kind of really, really helps. So I'll put that into the description. And when we become our young self, it can feel totally overwhelming. You know, I was sharing with a client recently this idea that when we flashback, it's like we go into the clouds. So we can't see anything. It's just rain coming down. It looks like our life is terrible, dark clouds over us. But when we take a step back, we realize we're under the clouds, and actually the rest of the horizon is clear. But we become that small self. We step into fear. And one of the remedies that Pete Walker talks about is just to get physical. Get into your body. For me, it's running. It's cycling. It's going for a walk. Even if I don't feel like it. Even if I'm feeling, I'm tired or I'm this or that, I still go. And I did that very much in the monastery when I was flashing back a lot in my 20s. I would go out for a walk every time. Every time I got into a dark space, flashing back, put my boots on and go for a walk. Put my boots on, go for a walk. Sometimes I got into trouble because I was meant to be working. And I was like, nope, got to go for a walk. But that really saved me. So that's kind of one of the things, is to get physical. Second thing, if you're going into a flashback, is read the list that I put into the description. Recommend Pete Walker's book. It's fantastic, really is. And it's to understand it takes time. As an ex-boarder, we are perfectionists. We want to get it right. We want to be perfect now. And actually, it's a life journey. It's a life journey of healing. It doesn't mean we stay down here all our life. No, we go up. But we're always improving. It's not like, I reached this perfection, this nirvana. It's like, no, it's an ongoing journey. And that helps us to relax, to see this is going to take some time. Another thing I would recommend is read the list. Yeah, read it. And go through it and go, right, say those things. Okay, I'm having a flashback. It's okay. And it might just be a really light flashback. It's a trigger about something. Maybe it's the politicians. I sometimes get triggered by, and it's a bit more powerful than I'd hope. So I need to step back. And that's the third thing I would suggest is, I ask clients to do this a lot, and I've talked about the tapping. Quite a lot of videos I have on EFT. This is a really beautiful technique for reconnecting to your amygdala, the limbic system, and just calming it down. Often when we're in that emotional flashback, our limbic system's either frozen or it's it's good, whoa. And by tapping, we just calm it down. And what then I love to do is just see the younger part of you. Maybe the boarding school self, the childhood self, and you just tap on them and you just let them know you're okay. I've got you. It's okay. You just let them be angry, upset, and you hold the space. Because what we have to do now, as my Jungian analyst said to me about 25 years ago, he said, Piers, you've got to start parenting yourself. We weren't parented at school. We weren't parented at boarding school. Therefore, as we get older and we go into difficult situations, we've no idea how to manage this. So we've got to learn. And part of being a parent, part of learning is falling over, messing up. We won't get it right first time. We might mess up, revert back to an old pattern. That's okay. In Claudia Gold's interview I did with her a number of years ago, she talked about this idea of rupture and then repair. Rupture and repair. And it's the same with us. We mess up, fall over, we have an emotional flashback, we then repair. Okay, how quickly can you pick yourself up? How quickly can you come back to center? So yeah, just some ideas there. I don't have any podcasts coming up for the next couple of weeks. A couple of weeks ago I've got 4. I've got a clinical psychologist. I've got talks about conflict management, and talking a bit about colonialism. So I've got some fascinating things coming up, and yeah, thank you so much for your support, and any questions, please let me know. Okay, take care.